This is a meeting of the Portland Utility Board, and we are holding this meeting electronically. The board members and relevant city staff are attending remotely, electronically, or by phone, and the city has made it available for the public to listen to the audio broadcast after this meeting. As you just heard, the meeting is being recorded. The public will have an opportunity to provide comments during the public comment portion of our agenda, and can also provide written testimony to the board by emailing utilityboard@portlandoregon.gov. At PUB, we believe and act on anti-racist principles in our meeting spaces and interactions. While every person has the right to share their personal perspective, we stand against wrongful conduct, particularly any conduct that's targeted toward people that are made vulnerable by systemic inequities. So this means stepping up as a community when there is wrongful conduct and fostering a space of learning and growth. We put our principles into action by speaking up and speaking out. Each person is empowered to do so in order to maintain the culture of PUB. And when we do so, we focus on the impacted individual or population, condemning conduct, but not people. Please. Thank you.
All right, I will quickly run through the meeting guidelines. My name is Amy Archer-Masters, and we ask that you state your name before you speak, and if appropriate, the name of the person you're addressing or that you're addressing the group. The chat box is only viewable by the hosts, the PUB staff, Eliza and myself, so please limit any chats to technical and logistical issues, including signing up for public comment, asking for technical assistance, or reminding us that you've been waiting to speak if you've not been called on. The raise hand function is primarily used by the board. The co-hosts may lower your hand once you've begun speaking, just to maintain the flow of the conversation. During the public comment period, the public can raise their hand and you'll be called on when appropriate. If you're connecting by phone, you can press *9 to raise your hand. Videos may be turned on when speaking if desired. It is not required. Please mute your microphone when you're not speaking. Members of the public will be muted except when giving public comment. And if you're connecting by phone, you may need to press *6 to mute or unmute yourself. As mentioned, public comment will be taken during the comment period early in the meeting. You can sign up through the chat with Eliza or myself, or you can raise your hand during the public comment period. It's also available just prior to any board vote after a motion has been made and seconded by board members, and this meeting is being recorded. I'll pass it back to Karen for the agenda.
Thanks, Amy. So we're actually going to start with Commissioner Mapps, and we are going to hold our public comment period, disclosure of communications, and review of minutes until after Commissioner Mapps has had a conversation. And we will then hear from Quisha Light with updates on the Portland Water Bureau customer communications regarding resuming the pre-pandemic debt collection activities. So we'll be looking forward to that update at a few minutes after 4. And then hopefully before we'll adjourn, we'll have a little bit of time to for folks that weren't able to attend the tour of the Columbia Boulevard treatment plant last week. For the folks that were, we hope there's some time for them to share some reflections, but we'll see about that. With that, I am going to turn the floor over to Commissioner Mapps. Thank you so much for being here, and we're looking forward to hearing what you want to share with us.
Well, absolutely. I want to thank everybody for having me here today. It's always great to connect with the PUB. I think I'm scheduled to speak for about 30 minutes today. I hope actually I don't go on that long, but there are a couple of updates I wanted to share and some appreciations I wanted to share also. First, probably one of the most important things I can do while I'm here, I have a number of staff members here, but I want to make sure everyone knows Gold Ann, who I just saw. There she is. Hey, wave, Gold Ann. Gold Ann is part of my City Hall staff. She's my liaison and policy analyst for water-related issues. She's a great person to have to connect with if you ever need to get a hold of me. She's a great entry point. I also have Michelle Rodriguez, who I think is not in on this call, but she's my policy analyst for environmental services issues, and I'll make sure that Michelle gets over and checks in with your group on occasion. What I wanted to start out today with just informally is to number one, thank you all for all of you who were able to make it over to the Columbia wastewater treatment plant. I can tell you, unfortunately, I wasn't able to attend that session, but I've heard multiple reports about your visit. It's so great that you were able to get out there. As a person who is relatively new to the wastewater world, I tell you, I think actually going out and meeting the people who do this work and seeing the facility we work with is incredibly important. You know, if you were there, that's a massive facility. It also has a little bit of age on it, and explains those two facts explains a lot of the challenges that we face right now. We have a great facility, but we also need to upgrade it. And I'm glad that you got a chance to see what we're working with. And I hope that that visit gave you a sense of where we wanted to go. Also, I hear in the wake of that visit that several members of the pub were interested in what's happening with our search for the next director for the Bureau of Environmental Services. We have Dawn doing a very capable job of serving as our interim, but I also wanted to let you know that we are in the process of doing a formal search, and we'd love to have the pub's participation and perspective on that search too. I'll tell you where we've been and where we're going. For the last several months, really, we've been having internal meetings with stakeholders, bureau staff, leadership, and city partners to get their perspective on what we hope, what we're looking for in our next bureau director. Over the coming weeks, we will also be reaching out to our external partners to get more perspectives on what we're looking for in our next bureau director. We'll also be doing some focus groups and have some individual conversations. And part of that process will also include the pub. I'll ask Michelle and my team to reach out to you and develop some sort of process or some sort of conversation to bring the pub into our visioning for what the leadership over at the Bureau of Environmental Services, what our next director of the Bureau of Environmental Services should look like. The second point that I wanted to share today is just some gratitude. I want to thank all of you all for serving on the pub. I got many old friends in this room, and there's some new names too. I look forward to meeting you in person. I also want to say that Portland needs the Portland Utility Board now more than ever. You know, today, water and environmental services are facing some unprecedented challenges. You know, where every city bureau, but especially the utility bureaus, are struggling with climate change, inflation, economic disruption, a pandemic, the legacies of structural racism and inequality. Plus, when you layer on top of that, aging infrastructure, you know, new regulatory mandates, especially from the state and the federal level, and a growing technology gap. We have a lot of challenges on our plate. And the way we think through those challenges is through conversations with the pub and our other stakeholders who are part of this, the utility family. So thank you for the work you do. We need you now more than ever. And now I thought I'd just take a minute or two to talk a little bit about some of the challenges and some of the conversations that I hope that the pub can help us work through over the course of this next fiscal year. The first challenge that certainly is top of mind for me, and I know I hope it will also be top of mind for you, and a problem you help us think through is our utility rates. As the commissioner in charge of the Water Bureau and the Bureau of Environmental Services, I'm deeply committed to keeping our utility rates as low as possible. At the same time, there is just a new reality facing the city of Portland, and especially our infrastructure bureaus. Inflation is skyrocketing, and we all hear the reports about inflation for everyday Portlanders running around 9%. I can tell you, if you are in the field of building major infrastructure projects, it's a heck of a lot higher than 9%. This is a reality we're coming to terms with right now. Frankly, the facts on the ground and the rate at which things go up is increasing every week. That is forcing some tough conversations and some tough choices about how we move forward. And I really look forward to the pub's partnership to help us think about how we make some of those really difficult choices of balancing the revenues we have with the expenses we have. The other thing that I really need your help with is utility assistance. Even if I am successful at keeping utility rates as low as possible, we also know that there are just some Portlanders out there who are going to struggle to pay their water and sewer bills no matter what. That's why it's so important that water and environmental services offer utility assistance programs that help Portlanders in need. Now, I have some really good news here. Over the past year, Portland's utility bureaus have made really important strides towards expanding and improving our utility assistance programs. But we still have a lot of work to do. And frankly, water and environmental services really needs the pub's help to get these programs right. I look forward to our conversation about how we can go about serving our neediest Portlanders effectively and making the very scarce utility assistance dollars we have stretch as far as possible. And the final thing, although it's hardly the only thing, but the final really major project I want to highlight for you today is the need for the pub's oversight and input on some major building projects we have in the utility bureaus. As many of you know, the Water Bureau is in the process of building a new filtration plant. This is a major project that has been years in the making. It's mandated by the feds. We're getting really close to breaking ground. This project is incredibly important to providing safe water to Portlanders and also to making sure that we have a robust and resilient water system. We need as many eyes on that project as possible, and I hope that you folks will join me in monitoring that project, seeing if we're making some right choices, and figuring out where how we can deliver this project on time and on budget. And environmental services is very much in a similar space. As you saw, if you made it out to the wastewater treatment plant, environmental services is in the process of some major improvements to the plant. In fact, these are the biggest improvements we've made to our wastewater system really since the 1970s. Again, a significant project, which is also facing enormous challenges given inflation and the difficulty we're all having trying to find, frankly, staff and literally parts. At this point, I have to buy things as small as nuts and bolts in bulk, because I'm not sure if I'm going to be able to get them 6 months from now. And even if I can get them from 6 months from now, we don't know what they're going to cost. So it's a very challenging time to be in the business of doing major improvements in the field of infrastructure. At the same time, I want to emphasize how important the water treatment plant and the upgrades we're making at the filtration plant. These two projects itself will really have a huge impact on what the infrastructure of our city will look like for the rest of the 21st century. The decisions we make this year basically determine what the next 75 years of the city looks like. It's incredibly important that we get this work done on time and on budget and get it done well. And I hope that we can count on your help to deliver these projects for the people of Portland. And of course, there will be many other projects that we'd love to engage you with, some of which we know. And one of the things about doing government in real time, there's always stuff that you don't know that will always come up. I'm thinking about this time last year, water, for example, had a major problem trying to source chlorine because of a number of issues. Things like this always happen. I think if I go back a year and a half, we had a major ice storm which caused wrecked chaos on many of our infrastructure and utility bureaus. So there's a lot of unexpected things that we need to prepare for too, and many smaller projects that I think will deserve our time and attention. I just want to close today by thanking you for engaging in this work, and I look forward to the conversations that we will have over the course of the rest of this fiscal year. And I look forward to rolling up our sleeves and moving forward. And those are the major thoughts I wanted to share today. I can also be available to answer any questions or provide any perspectives if you want. Otherwise, I would be happy to turn the mic back over to the chairs. Eliza, what should we do now?
I think we'll turn it over to Karen as co-chairs, who would probably be happy to facilitate if there are questions for that.
Okay.
Yeah,
for you.
absolutely. We have plenty of time for questions, and I would be really surprised if there weren't some out there. So let's...
I think I see Tom's hand up. Hey, Tom, how you doing?
Hi, Commissioner. Good to see you.
Good to see you today.
I really wanted to bring something up that relates to the challenges about inflation and cost, keeping the cost down. And this is an issue that we addressed as the old board, so the new board members may not be aware of this. But we had suggested to you and City Council that the automated meter infrastructure system be postponed. And we didn't give a date, but we thought, hey, this is a lot of money. And we were also concerned about Water Bureau paying half and BES paying half. We didn't quite get into that too much, but we didn't understand the rationale that BES would put half the money in. Aside from that, though, the basic question is, it seems with inflation, the issues that you just mentioned, it just seems even more important that maybe we just take that a year at a time and maybe say, okay, let's not do it this year. Let's look at it next year, see how things are going and go with that. So I just wanted to mention that, especially for the new members, so that they know that we had made a recommendation. And the feedback we got was that you and City Council did not agree with that, and that it's in the budget. So if you could clarify that, that would be helpful.
Sure. I believe right now AMI is in the budget. For those of you who are new to this concept, AMI is this notion. Right now we have water, people who go out and read your water meters. We'd like to basically digitize that so you could read water meters remotely. It's an exciting next generation technology. It's also a new investment. You know, this is a project that will take years to implement. It is in the budget that we just passed. And I will tell you, Tom, I think that this year, everything is on the table. We are in the very preliminary stages of thinking about what our budget ask for next year will look like. One of the things, which is, there are no sacred cows here. That's probably the way I should put it. So we will be looking at AMI as we move forward. And I'll tell you, one of the things I can pledge to do is as we get closer and more and deeper into drafting a budget, let's come back together and talk about what AMI looks like and if this is the time to move forward with that. I can't tell you, I can confirm that it's in the budget right now. I cannot, I don't know if it's going to be in the budget for next year.
Thank you.
Sure. Bob.
Good afternoon, Commissioner Mapps. Thanks for being here with us today.
Of course.
I just wanted to ask you about the Bureau's commitment and your perspective on green infrastructure. BES in particular was, BES has been seen historically as kind of a national leader on this. There is a perception that it's been downgraded in priority. And then the recent articles on trees on OPD and the Oregonian were very troubling. So I'm just curious, you know, as we move into a new era with a new leader, where you see that fitting into the priorities.
We're deeply committed to green infrastructure. I think it's core to the city's mission, or at least the Bureau's mission. You know, I think of our mission, you know, people think about environmental services largely as, you know, focusing in on wastewater, but you know, I think of my core mission is really keeping the river clean. Green infrastructure is part of that. I would say that some of the, I would say not some, probably most of the press coverage around the Friends of Trees, the evolution of Friends of Trees and the evolution of Friends of Trees contracts have been a little bit inaccurate. You know, BES is not getting out of the tree game. Rather, we're refocusing where we work. We're actually working in partnership with parks more effectively than we used to. The new vision is that parks is going to focus in on planting trees in the right of way, and environmental services is going to focus more on planting trees on private property and on multifamily spaces. I think by doing this, we'll actually expand the number of spaces and acres and trees that we get out there. But you do raise a really good question, is what the future looks like. You know, I think the Friends of Trees thing, I'm committed, and Commissioner Rubio and I have a partnership to make sure that we plant more trees next year than we did this year, and we'll continue that thing. We have goals in terms of growing our tree canopy. At the same time, you know, there are lots of opportunities to think about how BES engages with promoting environmental protections and protecting our green spaces. That's going to remain a core part of our mission, but it's actually also kind of a new space. You know, we're still trying to think about how we go about even measuring. You know, I know how to, for example, I have tools, fairly good tools in place to sort of measure my concrete and steel assets. I know how many pipes I got or whatnot. We're actually really still trying to invent systems to think about wetlands as being part of infrastructure too. So there's a lot of exciting work there. I think it is relatively young in terms of its maturation. So there's a lot of good work to do, but I can tell you we're not retreating out of that space, but I do think it's going to be an evolving space. And I also want to say, as we move forward, we will definitely engage with the pub about figuring out how we continue to harness green infrastructure to accomplish our both our core mission and our city's larger climate goals. Any other questions?
Commissioner, if it looks like there aren't any other hands raised from the
Is there anything in the
board
chat?
members, I might ask a question myself in
Sure.
closing, and that I'd love to hear your thoughts on sort of support for the workforce. And that was really brought home to me personally when we did that tour last week that you mentioned, and just the amount of responsibility and just enormous responsibility really that the staff are balancing and dealing with every day, several times a day. So something that had come up in the past board, and will probably carry forward with this one, is emphasis on how workers are being supported as far as training and certainly workforce equity and support for bringing in, but not just bringing in, but retaining and for folks from diverse identities and backgrounds, and making sure that there's support there for career growth. And not a particular question, but would love to hear any reflections you have on how that fits into your priorities.
It's a top priority, and actually it's been a large focus of my office since I've been here for the past year and a half. Both water and environmental services provide some important core services. We deliver clean water and we take away and clean dirty water. But if there's a larger social mission there, I view this as an opportunity to really change an industry that historically has been dominated by men, where we've seen very few people of color. This is also a real opportunity to do some wealth creation as we think about how we go about contracting with the various companies that help us maintain this system. It's a big emphasis of us. So we're deeply committed to diversifying our workforce, supporting people so that once they get in the door, they stay in the Bureau and the city and can move up the ladder. And there are also just frankly, a number of safety issues. It's not just water or environmental services, but I'll tell you, if you are a public servant in Portland today, especially a public-facing public servant, there are challenges and frankly dangers out there. Some of you might remember a couple of weeks ago, we wound up having with someone with a mental health, going through a mental health crisis, who had a pitchfork, who showed up at one of our water facilities. I can tell you we have had near hot carjackings over at the water treatment plant. I don't know what it looks like today. In fact, I do know what it looks like today. I believe we have a houseless camp, which is very close to the water facility. We've had problems with people jumping over the fence and getting onto the water treatment facility spaces. Number one, that's just a dangerous place for a civilian to be. It's also dangerous for folks to work out there. I got people out there 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, on nights and weekends. Historically, we've been understaffed for trying to fix that. Other challenges we face is, things which may seem small, but actually are not, around making sure that women, for example, have the appropriate equipment. When I first got to this job, we literally did not have safety equipment that was sized for women. So we're really trying to change that. And we're frankly, at this point, we've made some progress there, but we're also facing some supply chain issues, trying to get our vendors to actually get us the vest and the boots and the rest of it that we need that actually fits the workforce we have. Also deeply committed to promoting diversity. We really want to bring in a new generation of workers who look like the city of Portland. I think we're making progress on that, and we're deeply committed to getting that done. Also, I think there's some culture change that still needs to happen here. Dawn has been amazing at bringing a fresh pair of eyes to the Bureau of Environmental Services. At the same time, I think part of Dawn's mission and the mission of whoever serves in that role in the years to come is to create a space and a bureau that is open to people of color and women and people with physical challenges and whatnot. That is a core part of my mission, and it can't. It's not peripheral to what we're trying to do. It's a core part of what we need to get done. And frankly, because we're relatively large, we can be a real game changer here. We have weight and gravity and reach. I'm committed to using all of the resources and all of the physics associated with our work to make sure that actually we're able to, build a bureau or a set of bureaus that we can be proud of. And I'm proud of the work we've done. I think we've done a great job. I also will tell you, we've have a lot more work to do.
Thank you so much.
Sure. And with that, I apologize, folks. I'm doing another meeting now, so if I may, I'll sign off now. I'm leaving you in good hands. I will make a point of dropping in to pub meetings in the future. I also want to say I'd love to get you out to some water bureau facilities too, if you haven't had a chance to see that. I think that real world experience is really powerful in terms of understanding what we're dealing with. And good luck to you. And I hope you would, if I don't see you in the coming weeks, I hope you enjoy the rest of your summer.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
All right. Great interaction there. And I think we're going to move on to our disclosure of communications. So hello, everyone. And again, for newer board members, this is an opportunity for folks on the board, voting members who have had some interaction with the City Bureau, staff leadership, et cetera, to just get that out on the table in the interest of transparency. So if there are any disclosures that anyone would like to announce, please raise your hand and we'll take care of that. Must have been a quiet last couple of weeks, I guess. We had our tour with the at the treatment plan. I think that would be
My hands up.
Do you have something, Tom?
Yeah. Yes, I do.
Bob, I see. Yeah, let's go Tom and then Bob.
Okay, so just very quickly, yesterday there was a big utility truck that parked on my street that I live on, and I thought it, and they were opening up the manhole, and so I thought it was a BES truck, and I went over and I asked them what they were doing. So the reason I'm bringing this up is that I worked for BES for 26 years, and I keep track of lots of stuff, and I had never heard of this in my entire career. So it turned out that it was not BES that was in the BES manhole going down in the sewer. It was the Northwest Natural Gas Company. And the gas company was looking for cross connections that it may have done by its underground boring to put in gas lines. So when they do that, they can accidentally drill right through BES's and our sewer pipe. So that's what they were doing. And so it was just amazing. I'd never heard of that. And it was nice to know that natural gas is trying to keep track. So of course they're trying to do that so that their pipes don't break and we have gas in the sewer that can explode and cause some terrible problems, which would be the gas company's fault. But anyway, I just thought sometimes, you see something and you think it's something, and then it turns out to be totally different. And that was my experience. So it's not really a disclosure of something, but it was an encounter with somebody that was working in the sewer.
So I guess I'm up next, I think. I'd like to understand better down the road, not necessarily right now, what we're really supposed to disclose and what not. The thing I was going to disclose was in my capacity working for Audubon, we're starting to make the rounds of multiple folks within the city promoting the floodplain resilience plan, which is being managed out of a different bureau, not a bureau overseen by the pub, but it is it will affect BES in particular significantly, and BES is deeply engaged in it through their staff and their expertise. It'll move through the Planning Commission and then Council. It's also the product of a lawsuit that Portland Audubon brought over a decade ago. That's what's been driving the look at floodplains and how they're protected in the city. So I just wanted to disclose that. So we'll be meeting with probably all the commissioners, Planning Commission, staff from multiple bureaus in an advocacy capacity to move that through.
So you'll be meeting as Audubon?
As Audubon.
Okay, thanks.
Thanks, Bob. And that was a great example of a fantastic disclosure to bring to this table, and to sort of address your introduction. It's really up to the person doing the disclosure to sort of judge if it's worthy or necessary to disclose. I mean, in the interest of sort of erring on the side of transparency, probably better to disclose rather than not, and just kind of learn as you go what other folks are bringing to the table. But yeah, generally any substantial, let's call it, interaction with city employee leadership management, in the capacity of you as a pub member, or in your day job, or other interaction you've had. It's just better to kind of get it out there and let it be known that interaction happened. But appreciate the request for clarity on what counts and what should be brought forward and so forth. So enough on that. Not seeing any other hands raised. Let's take a quick, okay, we're going to do public comment. And we did get a written public comment that was submitted ahead of time. Do we have that member of the public present to also make a verbal public comment? I do see a hand raised at phone number ending in 593. Is that Scott Forster? And if it is, or in any case, the member of the public that has hand raised on the phone, to unmute, you would hit *6 on your phone, and you are free at that point to make your comment. Yeah, looks like you're unmuted. So yeah, please go ahead.
Thank you for the hint there. Thank you, and members. I assume I have 3 minutes. Is that correct?
Yes, please. We don't, at this point, we don't have any other person that I am aware of that wants to make public comment, but yes, if you.
I appreciate it. So if we could start now and then give me a couple minutes. If anyone has questions, please do, ask in case I don't make myself clear. My name is Scott Forster, resident of Gresham for some decades now, and wanted to make especially the new commissioners aware that the city of Gresham will no longer be a wholesale customer after over 100 years. My understanding is the city of Gresham was the first customer outside the city of Portland. The Bull Run pipes go right through the city of Gresham, and just before the city became a city, we got Bull Run water, and that was a part of the reason why the city incorporated. And now, 100 plus years later, we're going to give it up in a couple years, and we're going to go 100% well water. I and many other Greshamites would like to continue to have pure, clean Bull Run water. I'm hoping you'll take an interest because Mingus Mapps, I think, is exercising political malfeasance, and that he is basically given up on the citizens of Gresham. Talking to the leadership at the city is not the same as actually talking to the 100,000+ citizens directly. There's nothing preventing the Portland Water Bureau or Mingus Mapps through his leadership, if he had leadership, to actually come to the city and ask the citizens what they thought. Our mayor's race recently was won by less than 100 votes. So politically, things are in flux here in Gresham, and the idea that we're going to quit Bull Run water after 100 years has not been because the citizens of Gresham has risen to drink well water, it's because there's a lack of representation currently. And I'd like to implore you as the Citizens Committee to actually take a look at this issue, put it on the agenda, and allow me and others to actually, talk a little bit further about this. Reasons would be such as, with 100,000 plus people plus commercial industrial customers, I don't know a number of millions of gallons per day, but it would be logical that the more customers you have in your customer base, it helps to defray the cost of this filtration plant that Mr. Mapps was speaking of, costing hundreds of millions of dollars. So if you're going to lose 100,000 plus customers, each gallon is the additional costs are going to be borne by the citizens of Portland and their remaining wholesale customers. When it comes to Bull Run, I noticed that the mission of your committee is to also, care about watersheds. Same with the environmental services. Well, Bull Run is a huge, beautiful watershed. It's protected by its own federal law, the Bull Run Trespass Act, over 100 years old. That Trespass Act is a federal law, and it could be in jeopardy. And if it's ever petitioned by parties to basically have it undone, to basically undo the extra protections afforded the Bull Run to help keep the water clean, you're going to need the 100,000 plus voters of Gresham to basically advocate to help protect that resource. So it's not that you're just going to enjoy the water just yourselves, is that you're basically honing down and diminishing your constituency that has been there for 100 years. And I think with COVID-19, it's been a disservice that this large decision, a once in 100-year decision, has been made largely without inputs. And I think we need to pay extra attention to the fact that we had the COVID-19 pandemic, its effect on literal democracy and the ability for people to engage, in this case, virtually no engagement here at the city of Gresham. And why would the city of Portland give up one of their largest customers without a fight? I'm not saying you have to be adversarial, but come directly to the citizens of Gresham and ask us what we think, and then see what you can do about it. And then lastly, the commissioner form of government appears to be potentially changing. This is an opportunity where Mingus Mapps won't be able to ignore this situation. This will be the charge of everyone on the city council, and my hope is that that will be the case. And in that case, that allows for a fresh review of what appears to be a neglect on the part of Mr. Mapps. And thank you for your time to comment. I'll be glad to take any questions.
Thanks, Scott Forrester, for your comments. So a couple things. We don't have time on our agenda for Q&A with public commenters, and that's generally not the way we respond to public comments in the moment. And I do want to say, first of all, thank you for taking the time to come to the board with your comment. And this issue has come before this board before. It's been a while. It's been a few years since the effect of wholesale customers and the loss of wholesale customers has come to the attention of the board. So thank you for bringing it back to the table for us to consider. And the last thing I'd just like to say is that the Water Bureau sent some information to the board, and I believe, Scott, that Eliza shared that with you as well, again, in the interest of transparency, just to know that we did get some information from the Water Bureau ahead of this meeting, knowing that your public comment was coming because you had sent it ahead in writing. And yeah, that's great. And and we are expecting that board members, they have already had questions put to the Water Bureau. We're expecting that there will be more. So I do think it is likely that this issue, it will come back to this table for discussion. We don't have plans, at this point to say it's going to be the next meeting, but probably sometime in the fall, we will have this on our agenda. And at a minimum, we'll certainly be exchanging questions and answers with the Water Bureau among the board. so the board will be more informed about this topic. So again, thanks for your comment. Thanks for being
Thank
here.
you. If you can forward the information to me, I did not receive it from Eliza or the staff. That'd be great. Also, if you could either post your questions and the answers by the Water Bureau for all to see, or supply me with a copy, it'd be most appreciated. Otherwise, I'll have to do a public records request under Oregon law.
Understood.
Scott,
Understood.
Thank you very much for your
Hi,
time, Madam
Scott.
Co-Chair.
Scott, this is Eliza.
Yes, hi.
And I did send an email to you this afternoon because it was just a paragraph from Water Bureau. So it came from utilityboard@portlandoregon.gov. Did that not reach your email? Should I resend
I'll
it?
have to check. I'll check my spam filter to see, but I would like to get any questions and answers by the Water Bureau because, frankly, you know, this silence is not doing any justice to us out here. The valve has not been shut off, so there is time. And then, of course, the vote for whether the form of government is a major change, but that also allows maybe hope out here for you to retain one of your customers. And I appreciate the time of the committee. Thank you.
And will you let us know? Do check your spam filter, because right now all the information that's been shared with the board so far is just a paragraph. And so I did send that to you. So if you don't see that, would you please, if you don't see that in your spam filter, would you please just drop us a quick line to utility board and we'll get that to you.
Sure, I will. Thank you. And if you could also, again, address the issue of, you know, sharing the questions that the committee members have and the answers by the Water Bureau, those should be made public so that everyone can get the fruits of both the knowledgeable questions and the answers. Thank you.
All right. Let's see, do we want to do a quick look at minutes before we move on to water financial, debt recovery updates? Is that, I think we had that next on the agenda.
I just wanted to make sure that there was no other public comment before we moved
okay.
on.
Absolutely.
Not seeing
Tom,
their
I
hand.
do
Okay.
see your hand, but I want to keep an eye on time and make sure that we have time for the debt recovery update, because that's a rather extensive slide deck that I know you all have previewed. So is your
It's very quick. I just want
comment crucial?
it's just that I would like to add this to our work plan, this topic that we've just talked, that Scott presented to us, that as an item to put in our work plan. That's all I wanted to say.
So noted. Thanks, Tom. All right, quick look at the July 5th minutes. Thanks, Eliza, for pulling those together. Are there any additions or any omissions that anyone noted in those minutes? And again, this is, I'm looking at returning board members here because no, that's right. I'm sorry. This was our first meeting with everyone. So you're all on the hook for having looked at those minutes, and given a few seconds of pause. I thought they looked great. So, and apparently you all agree. So let's say the July 5th minutes then stand accepted as written. Thanks, Eliza. All right. Director Light, I believe you are here to provide us an update on the debt collection.
Good afternoon. Yes, I am.
Wonderful. Thank you for being here.
Thank you all. Good
Thank you for being
afternoon,
here.
members of the Public Utility Board. My name is Quisha Light, and I am the Customer Service Director for the Portland Water Bureau. And today I'm here to share with you our communications plan for resuming the debt recovery process with residential single-family customers. My hope is that you were able to somewhat review the materials I provided. As was mentioned, I know the deck has a lot, there were several slides, and I don't want to have to go through all of them if you don't need me to, but I certainly will try to move through quickly and respect your time. So my hope is that we can have more of a discussion and I can respond to any questions and listen to any feedback or concerns that you may have about our plan. As noted here, the purpose for this meeting, one, is to inform you of what we're doing, what our communications have been as we start to resume residential shutoff or residential single family shutoffs, because it won't be all residential customers, but also to just get your feedback, and your insights to see if we have missed anything. And so, and because You know, as much as we have tried to be thoughtful and consider a lot of different things here, you can miss stuff. So we'll quickly just kind of walk through, and the commissioner talked about some of these things. I wanted to kind of ground the conversation around the balancing of customer and system needs and the equity considerations that we made, and give you somewhat of an insight into the conversations that my team has been having as we made this decision. And then kind of walk through the current status of arrears, the actual comms plan, and then other additional considerations, and just how we're evolving our debt recovery process in the future, how we're thinking about some things. Next slide. As the commissioner mentioned, it is definitely a situation where we are constantly balancing when it comes to debt recovery. We've got infrastructure replacement, management that needs to happen with our water system. We've got, you know, things caused by climate change, and we've got regulatory compliance issues that need to be addressed. So you look at the water filtration plan, that's an example there. You've got the need and the desire to provide our customers affordable water service, equitable access to the assistance that we have, and just reliable water, because this system was set up, you know, we didn't go through building the system from Bull Run just so we could all, just to drink water. It was about ensuring for public health that water was available to the town, to the communities around. And so constantly trying to balance that is something that my team is doing, and doing more and more of, because the issues are real. And that is the thinking. It's not just my customers, it's from a customer service standpoint, it's not just me having this conversation with my managers. This goes all the way through my billing, my meter readers. Everyone is having to think about what the impact of these decisions are. Next slide, please. So as we started the conversation, there are a host of equity considerations. I wanted to give you some insight into some of the things that we did think about here. And I won't get into all of these, but a big one is, how do we reduce the potential rate impact? Because we've seen arrears grow during this time of the moratorium. And you know, living in this area, as I stated, when I came a few months ago and met you all, I know what the cycle of poverty looks like. I grew up in it, and understanding that sometimes people are making tough choices between their bills and their ability to pay. We really want to do the most that we can do to keep the rate impact low, to try to keep our rates down. But as arrears are growing, that becomes really, really hard. So you add increasing arrears to all the other things I mentioned on the previous slide that we're trying to balance. That's a huge equity consideration. What is the impact to all customers? Understanding that we do have customers that cannot afford our bill. This isn't a new issue. This is something that's been there. You know, there were folks, well, years before I joined the Portland Water Bureau, people have been talking about the increasing, the fact that our customers are increasingly unable to pay the bill or afford the water bill. So that's not new. You know, we want to provide shutoff protection for customers who are already on our financial assistance program. We know they're on a financial assistance program. So why would we put the extra burden on them of trying to figure out how do they avoid shutoff? We're working through those things. We've got the multifamily tenant situation. Understanding that those customers aren't even the direct customer, they're indirect customers of ours, and they're depending on a landlord to pay a bill. So why should they be subject to the shutoffs as we try to figure out other things? So as you'll see, those two particular groups, we are going to extend the moratorium for them, because there are things that we need to solve for there before we go there. We have ARPA funding that's been applied, and we have about $300,000 more that we received in the second round. So we're looking at how we can distribute that first to our most vulnerable and disadvantaged communities. And we're using census data and other things to try to figure that out. So, and at the heart of it, we know customers are making some tough choices. So how can we help not create more stress for them? Next slide. And at any point, please feel free to interrupt me if you have questions. So I wanted to just we have that background. We know the things that we have to think about. And I wanted to just give you a picture of the residential single family account status. As you can see, what you see on this chart is these are accounts that are over $115. That the threshold, that's our normal threshold for cutoff or for disconnection. If you're behind a past due bill of $115 or more, then you can fall into that category. In November, you see when we started this in November, looking at this number, the total arrears was around 13 million. And then you see before we apply the afloat credits and our match credits and things, in May of this year, we were at 16 million. You see a decline once we pay out those afloat credits and we apply them to customers' accounts. You see a decline on May 13th when that happened. That's a $3 million decline, but immediately on June 17th, it went right back up. I mean, because people are being, we're billing constantly. There's been some decline in that number, as very small, as we continue to, as we have started to get the word out more and more around, call us, contact us, let's make some arrangements, let's pay your bills. So we're starting to see, we saw a little bit of decrease in July. But at the end of the day, we need to turn the tide here. And the only way that we're going to be able to do this, we got to look at all the tools in our toolbox. And right now, disconnect does happen to be one of those tools, because we have customers who can't afford to pay. We have customers who can afford to pay and have just told us, I'm not paying because you're not shutting off. I'm not going. So, and these other companies are, or I'm not going to because you're not shutting off. So, and then we have those customers who there's no way they can't afford it, but they're willing to pay. They've been paying something, so they haven't completely stopped paying their bill. They have been paying something. But regardless, we got to help our customers reestablish payment habits. One thing that I have learned, some of us grow up and we learn how to just pay our bills and we do this on time, or we learn how to break it down. I have learned in this time of doing customer work, customers need all types of nudges to help them get into that pattern. So, like I said, disconnect is only one tool in our toolkit. We have assistance programs, so discounts, we're working with partners, we're doing everything that we can. We have long-term payment arrangements, as you have seen in the deck. But I want to make sure you understand the process, the shut-off process, and then our communication. So if you could go to the next slide, please. And I'm looking off to my screen because it's harder for me. I can see, so I'm not trying to not look at you all. So the way that we decided to come at recommencing the shut-off process is we decided that we would look at accounts that were $1,000 or greater. Now, even of itself was a tough choice for us, trying to figure out what the cutoff point would be. We are focusing on accounts that are $1,000 or greater. That's about 3,500 accounts. None of these 3,500 accounts include customers, again, that are in financial assistance or that are multifamily. And so if we do this, when we do this, and we started sending out letters in July, in mid-July, July 19th, we started sending out letters around about recommencing shutoff and our normal operations. And we expect that actual shutoffs would start sometime in September. And we'd be looking at approximately 54 accounts per day that could be subject to shutoff based upon these numbers of the 3,500 accounts. Our hope, with the help of our community partners and the constant communications that we're putting out there, is that we won't see that. But that is what it will look like if we don't get customers contacting us. We will have reminder notices that will start to go out August 24th. We will start our normal pre-shutoff notices, the automated courtesy calls, all those things will start to happen in the way that we've normally done it. Next slide. So how are we getting the word out and what are we doing? We're taking a multi-channel comms approach to try to reach different segments of our customer base, because we know not all of our customers are responding to email. Not everyone looks at their mail as much as I wish that they would, but I know I'm guilty. I don't open every piece of mail. So what else can we do? We have, in talking with some of our other utilities in the Portland area, out of state and other things. One of the things that we heard that was really successful in getting customers to actually start calling in and making those payment arrangements was red door hangers. And essentially what that red door hanger is going to do, I'll walk through these. So we're going to use red door hangers. We're going to use our letters and our brochures and notices that we normally use with customers. We're working with community partners trying to get the word out so that they can help us there. So we're sending things via email to those community partners. We're talking with them and via phone, in person. We're showing up in some of their meetings to make sure that people understand that this is happening and to help us get the word out. And then eventually what we'll do is some web and social media work too. And I'll talk about what that specifically will look like. Next slide. So the red door hangers, this gives you an idea of what it looks like. And the goal is, for the accounts that are $1,000 or more, we're trying to just make sure that they don't ignore the letter they receive. They don't ignore anything. And so we're going to try these door hangers. We'll deliver about 100 of these notices per day for over a 6-week period. We didn't deliver them last week because of the heat. We didn't want to create that stress for customers, so we held off in doing that. Especially at a time when you're telling people to drink water, and we create that fear. So, and the red door hanger is in all of the top 4 safe harbor languages. Next slide. So the communications plan also is having I'm sorry, I'm really struggling, moving too fast today. We are also going to be sending out letters, brochures, and notices. And what that's going to look like is targeted mailers. So there are some groups that, using census data and other things, we've identified there are some key areas where we see more vulnerable customers based upon the census data. So, we want to be able to give them more information, like really help them focus in on our financial assistance program, really help them stop and say, please call us and talk to us. So some customers will get more depending on if they fell into this group. Others will get just the normal letters that come with their bill because we know that they're going to pay attention and they'll respond, and they just need to know we're starting back. We really worked hard to simplify our financial assistance brochure, because in the past, that financial assistance document has included things about leaks and this and that, so many other things to distract a customer. And what we did is said, we just want customers to know, do you need help with paying your bill? Do you fit in this category? If so, here's what you can do. Call us. And we didn't want to distract them with a whole bunch of other information. We can talk about leak adjustments. We can talk about all of that when they contact us. And again, we will be using the reminder notices and everything. Next slide, please. On the web and social media front, we won't be doing anything on the web for our website. We have created like a dedicated web page, so customers who get the letter, they'll be able to go to that web page, see the information about shutoffs, financial assistance programs, and everything. When it comes to social media, we won't necessarily be focusing on the Water Bureau starting back shutoffs. What we're going to be focusing on is financial assistance and payment arrangements, and doing some advertising and targeting the messaging around, do you need help? Do you need help? Do you need help? Here's how you can get help. Call us, do this. So that's what we'll be doing on social media. And the next one. So our community partners, I'm sure a lot of you are aware of many of these groups. I won't go through the whole list, but what that looks like for us is we'll be using our own community engagement. We have a contract with the community engagement liaisons. We're going to be using them to help to get the word out about not only the resumption of shutoffs, but discount programs, payment arrangements, and all of those things. So we're educating a lot of our partners around, here's what we have available, please call us. We've been talking with groups like Self Enhancement Incorporated, Impact Northwest, Human Solutions, the Community Services Network, PDX, Community Energy Project, the Rebuilding Center, REACH program. So we're trying to cover the gamut here to get the word out and hopefully have people contact us. At the end of the day, we are hoping that we see customers really understand and know that the main thing is to call us. We can create and work on something, but you've got to call us. And in the past, we've heard that I didn't know about your assistance program. So we are really driving home and trying to get the word out there. And then if you go to the next slide, please. And of course, we'll promote things like LIWA and the ARPA funds. But because we only have $300,000 with those ARPA funds, I will let you know the way that we're initially going to target that, because it's our hope to really focus on getting those dollars and matching dollars to customers who have the higher need first. So as I mentioned before, we are using census data and other information to help us pinpoint of those 3,500 accounts, customers that that fit certain criteria and for certain demographic criteria. And we're going to target information about those dollars to those groups first. And then once, we'll wait 30, 45 days to see what type of response we get. And then we'll open out those funds up more broadly. Again, it's only $300,000. So we were really trying to figure out what's the best way to get the word out about it. And so final, just kind of additional considerations for us. Again, we're extending that financial assistance, we're extending the moratorium for financial assistance program participants and multifamily customers. We are offering longer payment arrangements. Customers will be able to have up to 36 months, particularly for those higher balances, which we are hoping will make it a little bit easier. We are revising our own practices that will help to lower the amount of payments that are needed to restore service. So, and allowing people to reestablish broken payment arrangements. I'm really talking with my team about talk to the customers and help. Even if a customer is saying, yeah, I can pay $150, asking them, can you really pay $150 a month? Be honest with us, because if you can't pay $150, but you can consistently pay $25, $30, then that's the payment we want to put you on so that you don't have to keep going through this. So we've had a lot of communications with our team around those things. We are revising our leak adjustment practices to accommodate those lengthier repair times. And I think the last thing that I want to leave you with is this last bullet point. We are working on so many of the issues that address the affordability, the lack of affordability issues. We are working on, the strategic plan. We have an equity plan. We have affordability plan. And I know AMI came up. I'm going to end on this. I believe that I know that there's a cost up front, and believe me, I do know that. But in the long run, things like AMI will actually help, I believe, reduce a lot of these costs and make it easier for us to provide better services. It will open up a lot more doors for us to do some of the things that we need to do to make our service more affordable for customers. So, and I say that recognizing that it also brings up intergenerational equity concerns and issues and a whole lot of other things. But I'm going to stop before I get someone virtually kicking me probably. Are there any questions on that? And then I'll kind of finish with my, I've got a couple other things, but I know that's the bulk of it.
Thank you so much, Director Light. Looks like we have a question from Teresa Huang.
Hi, yeah, thank you, Director Kwisa, for providing the presentation. I just have a question on the outreach part. I heard that you have considered many ways of, sending out a message and making sure people are aware. I myself always pay attention to, I'm always thinking about people who speak different languages. So I was wondering, I might have missed it, but I was just wondering if there are methods of outreach that are considered for, people coming from different cultural backgrounds. I know some, like, no matter how much information we put on the letter, no matter how much information we put on social media, they just have ways to miss it. And I just learned that, they just really require different ways of receiving those information. So I was wondering if you have considered working with, say, like, for example, the cells or the other outreach programs to make sure that these information are really getting to the immigrant and refugee communities, also including different languages.
Yeah. I didn't mention ERCO, but they are a partner that we are working with. But if you have some other organizations, we also have El Programa, the Latino Network, Hacienda's CDC. So if you have some other specific groups that you're aware of, I am definitely open to reaching out and asking for that help, because you're right, that is a big part of it. That language barrier will keep people from interacting or truly believing that yes, they're wanting to help. So please give us any additional names.
Yeah, I just wanted to suggest, I've had experience working with the CELS, the Community Engagement Liaisons. I know a lot of Bureau staffs also work with them. I would also suggest, like, working with Monoma County Libraries. Those are just some of the ones I know are a little bit more successful in some particular language groups. Yeah.
Yes, no, the sales we are working with, definitely. And so, but the library is a good one. I didn't even, we should have thought about that. So thank you for that one.
Thank you.
Great, Julia. And then I guess Julia, Lorraine, Alexis.
Great, thank you. And I apologize if you covered this, but I'm just thinking about inevitably, it seems like somebody who should be on a payment program and is full of good intent is going to eventually end up, getting their water shut off. And my question is for those individuals, like, as soon as, I guess my question is, how soon after the notification of it, or like how soon after a water shut off happens, can a person immediately like start the process for getting on a payment plan at that point? Like, what is how quickly can the water be turned back on if the person comes to you at that point to try to, fix the situation?
Yeah, I mean, if we have someone, some of it depends on the time of day, right? But if they're calling us in the morning because one of the water inspectors showed up at their home, we have the ability to get them on a payment arrangement and get their water turned back on probably the same day. Most likely, we're going to get them turned back on in the same day. But if it's, and I mean, the key is that it's just when they're calling. This isn't an unusual thing. So people can call us and get turned back on. So yeah, that's pretty much for the most part a same day thing. You can't call us on the weekend, unfortunately. Does that help and answer that for you, Julia?
Oh, certainly. That was, I'm sure it was something as straightforward as that. I just feel like it's good to know that process can be immediate, because I feel like that there is inevitably going to be somebody who just wasn't comfortable interacting with the system. Somehow didn't hear about the program, fill in the blank, you know what I mean? So I just, all right. But yeah, thank you. That totally.
And I would just say too, that we have moments where our inspectors will even give folks and say, look, you call, you make an arrangement. I won't even shut your water off. Just go make the call and I'll be back. We've even had that.
Mhm.
And if they can check and see that the arrangement's been made, then, you know, nobody's water gets turned off or has to be turned back on.
I think it's more. Thanks so much, Keisha. I have several questions and I'm wondering if I should have asked them while you were going through the presentation. So ultimately, as you're going through the discussion and you're saying that you're looking at disconnecting customers who are 1,000 and more, and I am like, anyhow, I'm thinking if you couldn't pay the $100, I don't see how you could pay the $1,000. So the question I have is, what does a customer do who cannot pay their bills and is cut off from water? What are the expectations on that your house doesn't have water, you don't have money to pay for it, and your water get cut off? I'm just trying to envision what that would look like. Are they going to go to the Willamette River, dip some water out of the Willamette River, boil it, and shower? I don't know. I'm a new member, right? So I'm just asking all these possibilities. The second questions, I'll just ask all my questions if that's okay with you.
I will do my best. I'm trying to make sure I have all of them. I'll make sure.
Right. How is or was the $115 shot threshold determined, and that a fee is applied once you get to that threshold? I'm just curious about that. Is shut off the only motivation? You said that some customers are telling you, hey, we're not going to pay until you shut it off. So is shut off the only motivation? And what is the reconnection cost? And I'm wondering why you all are doing only 4 safe harbor languages. If what's the reasoning behind that? And then I had a note here about a comprehensive plan where there is an effort to build trust with communities who probably have never had that trust with a utility that has had negative impact on these communities, in that the only redress that they have dealt with is, we're going to shut you off. And I'm trying to understand what kind of comprehensive plan there is with building trust and engaging with communities. And I know that the city relies a lot on community partners. However, I think one of the things that we need to acknowledge is that not everyone is connected to our community partners, and there are a lot of gaps in who the community partners really connect with. And I think in most cases, the most impacted people are the ones who are least are connected, if at all.
Okay, so so there are a couple of things that first you talked about, your question was around what does a person do if their water is turned off, essentially, and they don't have the funds to pay. Like I said, we have the payment arrangement process that we can work through with them. The other thing is we have our financial assistance program, and this gives them an opportunity because they may meet the requirements so they can get, and we have a very steep discount depending on whether they meet the requirements for the program. So we have some customers who will get enough to cover a significant portion, or if not all of their bill. So if they meet the requirements of that program, that's available to them. There's the city put in place a safety net program. So there are different programs that we have available that will offer them a discount or on their bill, we'll offer them payment arrangements. We'll do these things to help them get and keep their water on. The $115 threshold, that's a great question. It's one that I'm looking into because I personally don't know why that's the threshold, to be honest. That I've been in my role now for 4 months, so I'm not that much more experienced being here than you are being on the board probably. But that 115, no one has really been able to tell me why. And so we're examining that threshold now. Is that the right threshold? Because your question asks, are there fees that start to apply when you're past due? Yes, there are fees that start to apply. So we're really looking at that now. But that's, but those fees aren't necessarily just associated with the 115 threshold. It's just, like many companies, if your bill is past due, certain fees and penalties start to apply just from a past due bill. I haven't done enough customer research and work to say, is that the only motivation? And I don't know if your question was, is the disconnect the only motivation for customers to pay, or is there some other motivation? Is that what you were asking? Okay. I believe we have customers who, I come from the electric industry. You have customers that are motivated to pay because they believe in the system that is there because it is necessary for their very life, right? And it's necessary for their health. So people can be motivated by a lot of different things to pay their bill other than, the threat of disconnect. And they're just looking for you to provide a way for them for you to help make it more affordable for them to pay and be able to meet their need. But there are multiple motivations, I believe, as to why people pay their bill. Disconnect is probably for many customers. One of the things that I found when we did this research at PGE, disconnect was probably really small. People pay their bill because of all the things that matter in their life, truthfully. And I would imagine that would be about the same for the Water Bureau. I'm not sure, I haven't done that research yet, but I hope we can dig in, hope to be able to do that research soon, where we start to understand what the motivations are, but it's just not something I've done. So I'm just pulling on past experiences of that research. And then the last question was, so then you had a question around reconnection costs. So we do not charge customers to turn their water back on. It is the making of a payment arrangement or something that gets your water turned back on, but they don't pay a fee to necessarily get their water turned back on. If that's getting at the heart of what you were asking. Okay. And then the outreach plan to build trust. This is a big one for me. So, I think the Water Bureau has done, I think there are different parts of the Bureau that have done a really great job at being out in the community, establishing relationships. And I think, particularly thinking about our water efficiency group, they've done a great job of being out there making certain connections. And I think about my financial assistance program that, the folks on that team have made some good connections. But then, as you mentioned, there are some big gaps because we're not, if we're just going to the organizations that we already know, we're going to miss people. And we've got to figure out new ways. Someone mentioned in a meeting, oh, we should advertise through WhatsApp because a lot of folks that from other countries use WhatsApp. Great point, right? A great way to reach out and connect, but learning about all the different organizations, how they connect with the city as opposed to a private business, all these things are things that I'm taking in and assessing right now. So, and it's funny that you asked this question because this is the one where I just sat down with the team, like we've got to get our outreach plan worked on and built, and we were talking about it today. So I don't have that, so I don't even want to get into specifics, but we're going to leverage the relationships that we already have, definitely. And I look at being able to come here, or as I'm meeting new people, identifying other groups, other people that can provide us with the information that we need to reach our customers. And then it's doing customer research and finding more ways to have focus groups, bring customers in, because they're the ones that are going to tell us how to communicate with them, how to get them what they need. And that's a piece that we need to do more of. So there's some work there that we need to do, I mean, on that front, and we're not doing it right now. And that's a big part of what I am going to have my team working on. So not the most satisfactory answer, believe me, I know.
And the safe harbor languages. Why
Oh,
did
the
you
safe
also
harbor
write
languages.
for? Mhm.
Now, as far as I know, that is a practice that we've had in based upon the percentages of the population or what have you in our community, in our area, as far as I know. We have been talking about how do we translate and bring in more languages. We are definitely working through that one. The cost of translation is definitely an issue. Getting the translation right is an issue. So trying to figure out how we do that and bring in more languages. Right now, that's just the Bureau's standard is those top 4 languages is what we make sure we translate, but we do offer access to translations. So if a customer isn't a part of the top 4 languages, and let's say it's Arabic or something, they can request that information be provided to them in another language. So we do offer translation services, but I don't know that I can put together a brochure that's going to satisfy everyone. This question has come up. I've been at the Bureau now 4.5 months, and I've had to answer this question 3 or 4 times from customers who are like, well, why isn't it in my language? And I wish I could do that. But one thing that we are going to be working on is we're looking at our customer self-service portal, which will allow customers to select their language and interact with the system in their own language, which will allow them to see videos in their language. So there are things like that that are out there available to customers to be able to do this. But it is right now, our practice is the 4 top languages.
Yeah, and Alexis, please go ahead, close us out.
Hi, Ms. Light. Thank you so much. I'm Alexis. I'm also a new pub member, and you've actually answered most of my questions with your talk when you were talking about the outreach plan. I was really curious there. I just have kind of 2 suggestions, I guess, for more outreach things. I was also going to say libraries, and then kind of coming out of this heat wave was thinking a lot about like the community centers and how those served as cooling centers, and how that can also be a really excellent place to reach folks with that are run by Parks and Rec, and was also thinking about food banks and some of the free lunch things that are run this summer, and how I've seen just information in the parks concurrently there. And so that might also be a really excellent way to reach folks who might not be affiliated with some of the community groups that you're talking about. And then my question, and I know that we're nearing our time, is looking forward a little bit and thinking like preemptively about folks who are nearing that threshold. So how can you keep people and doing the outreach with those folks about the financial assistance program so that they're kept from even reaching that threshold? And so I was just curious if there are kind of like tiers of outreach that the Bureau is conducting. And feel free to follow up via email if you have.
Yeah, no, I mean, actually, I think that's a great question. I want to kind of just close with you all. There's so much that we are looking to do, redesigning our financial assistance program, creating more tiers, really assessing how our assistance programs are helping us address affordability issues. We're exploring ways that we can pilot new things around affordability that I believe will give us an opportunity to say, we have 2 tiers, but do we need 4 tiers? Do we need 5 tiers? And how do we really get people to think about, at the electric company, you had something such as customers could pay a little extra into a fund that helped build up assistance programs, those types of things. So those are the things that we're looking at. And we started the process of just kind of overhauling and rethinking some things around our assistance programs. and new ways of testing and working with customers to understand what do they really need? Because we've designed a lot of things based upon, well, they can't afford it, but can they not afford everything? Can they afford some? What is it? And thinking through those things a little bit more with customers. So more to come as we continue to do this work. But thank you all so much for your questions and for the time and for the wonderful suggestions and feedback. I really appreciate it.
Thank you, Director Light, for being here, for presentation, for being so open to, thank you for asking for our input and so graciously accepting and considering it. And if folks have additional thoughts and feedback and input they would like to offer, can you share with us the timing where that input and feedback would be most helpful to you? Like maybe perhaps where is the next decision point for
At this
for your
point, if you
team?
have suggestions, you know, as we start to work on some other things around our assistance programs, I think what I'll do is come, if you're open, I'll come back and say, here's where we are and how we plan to stage the work and give you some decision points as it relates to those types of things. But for the debt recovery process, now, when, you know, as if you have other thoughts about it, please just send those to us.
Okay,
anytime.
great.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you so much. All right, well, pub members, fantastic engagement and questions and thoughts today. Thanks for your energy. We will close out just looking ahead. Our next meeting is the 18th. And I just want to draw your attention, since we are going to be doing, taking a look at our annual report for this past year, but then using that to inform our 22-23 work plan. Just want to draw your attention that Eliza sent on July 25th, I believe. Look in your email and you'll see the draft report and work plan, and really encourage you to read through that, take a, jot down your thoughts, kind of collect them, and as much as you can send anything you would like to see added or changed to the report, but mainly looking at the work plan. Please send that ahead of time if you possibly can, so we can get that incorporated before the 18th, and then, be able to be really efficient with our time on the 18th. And keeping in mind that, we're going to be checking in on this quarterly. Work plan isn't written in stone and doesn't mean that we can't change and adapt and address priorities as they come up. So, if it's a good guide for us for the next year, then we've accomplished our goal. And like I said, we'll check in on it quarterly, is what we did this past year, and that seemed to work well. So, and we'll hopefully next meeting, maybe we can have some reflections on the field trip, and would love to give some time to that at our next meeting. So with that, meeting adjourned. We can